So in this video, you're going to be learning how to use contract to close on our Grow Coaching website. So if you go to growcoachinggroup.com and then of course you log in, you are going to use transaction coordination right here. As soon as you get an executed contract, meaning the buyer and seller have both signed, that's when you need to go over here to contract to close and click on that. And it really needs to be honestly the same day that it's executed, because our transaction team needs to be able to have it as soon as possible to be able to help you schedule inspections, and just start the whole contract to close process. If they get it, a few days after it's executed or a week after it's executed, you're not getting the same value of this service as if it were the same day it was executed. And then that way they're also in the loop from the very beginning of everything that's going on. So before you actually submit it, what you need to do is go to your dot loop, make sure that you have all the contracts in there. So your 1 to 4 family, it needs to be the executed version, not the one that just one party signed. Same thing with all the contracts. So if I look at the contract compliance checklist sheet, let's say it's a buyer. I'm looking at the buyer purchasing. I need to make sure I have my IABS, notice to prospective purchasers, the buyer tenant resident, the buyer's rep, the CFPB addendum, 1 to 4 family, third party if it's financing, seller's disclosures. If it's a Keller Williams listing, there would be the KW addendum to seller's disclosures. If it's not, you won't have these. And if it's in a water district, you need to have that as well. As well as if it's in an HOA, you'll have the HOA. And if it's built 1978 or before, the addendum for lead-based paint. And then if it's within our own office, the intermediary. So for example, if I go back to dot loop, I have my IABS, the buyer's rep, CFPB, notice for prospective purchasers, the 1 to 4 family, third party, HOA addendum, seller's disclosures, MUD. And then there was a couple extra forms that the listing agent had on HAR that I had to sign, or my buyers had to sign. So I'm going to open all these up real quick and make sure that all of them have signatures. And this is really going to minimize the time that the transaction coordination team would have to email you back and forth asking for these different documents. It'll just make the whole process a lot smoother. So good, it's got signatures. Now this is a mock contract, so I don't actually have a buyer's signatures on it, but in real life you would. So I'm just checking to make sure that everything's there. For this example, we're just going to pretend that my buyers have actually signed everything. Seller's disclosures. Third party addendum. And then the offer. Also make sure that the execution date is filled in on the offer here. So after your buyer and seller are both signed, there needs to be an execution date there. Okay, good. So everything's there. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here and I'm going to start filling this out. So you're going to put your name first and last, the address of the property, the loop name. So as an example, I'll just start filling this out. Property address on this was, let's see, 27352 Dara Springs. Spring, Texas 77386. And then the loop name, mine is Mock Buyer. It is a buying. Executed contract, it was executed right here, November 1st. Okay, closing date is going to be on the contract as well. So it really helps having these two separate tabs up there so I can go back and forth between the two. Closing date is 12/15. And then the MLS number, I would need to put that in here. I'm going to make one up for this example. But of course, just go back to HAR and get the MLS number. They need the title company's information, the title company, the lender, all their information. And so you'd put that in here. See, the title company is whoever you choose, whoever the title company would be right here on the contract. So for this example, I'd put your title company, and then their phone number and email, and then the lender phone/email. It's important that our transaction coordination team have all the contacts for everyone, and this is actually something that I'm going to add to this loop that will be very, very helpful for you and for the transaction coordination team. So on our Grow Coaching website, I'm going to show you here in a minute, there's a new document that's going to be a buyer's closing timeline, and it really has a lot of helpful information on it. So here, if you've chosen an inspector, a home warranty company you want to use, a home insurance company, or if there's anything unique about this transaction that the transaction coordination team needs to know, put it in here, and then just hit submit. Let's see. Okay, so I didn't put any notes, so I could say inspection or inspector, and use who. Just use who you want to choose as your home inspector. Home warranty, you may not know yet, because that may be something that you discuss with your buyers a little bit later to get to pick a plan. So if you don't know it yet, just put it in here. You don't know it yet. If you've already got your inspection set up, because it's like other than delivering earnest money and option money, it's the very first thing you do. Then let them know inspection is set up for such and such date and time with this inspector. Let's hit submit. And there you go. It says complete contract to close coordination includes compliance check and creation of green sheet. Thank you for your request. We'll contact you within 24 hours and let you know if any further information is required. Please email Angie at Grow Closing Group if the matter requires immediate attention. So they'll get back to you within 24 hours, which is another reason why it's so important to make sure that you get your contract to close in as soon as that contract is executed. And just make sure that your loop is complete before you do contract to close. That way they have all the working pieces. Now that sheet that I was telling you about is under resources. I've put it in under buyer and under checklist. You click on buyer, it is the buyer closing timeline. It's named the same thing under checklist. So if I open that now, it's a Word document, so you can modify this, and especially like you want to change the name, change the address, and everything in yellow is going to be changed per what's on the contract. So if I know my effective date is November 1st, estimated closing date is November 15th, then everything else from the date of execution, day 1, starts counting the next day. So that means my option period, if it's 10 days, it's going to end on November 11th. So you just take a calendar and you count out 10 days after November 1st. And of course, if I'm looking at my 1 to 4 family, I can get all that information from this contract. So the option period, I have a 10-day option period, so from November 1st to November 11th is my option. And then for the deadline to get new survey, I have to look and see how many days did I put on here for the survey. Which is 20 days. So again, I count out 20 days from November 1st, and that's where I get this November 21st. And you just keep doing that on here. And then down here is all the contact information. So who are the buyers, their contact information, the buyer agent, the lender, their contact information, the seller, you put their names, but not the contact information for them. And then the listing agent. So this is really helpful to put in your loop, as well as give this to the buyers, so that way they know when important dates are coming up for themselves. And it's good for you to know when important dates are coming up on the contract. And to upload it into .loop, all you have to do is, it's a Word document from our website. You just file, save as a PDF. Right here, and hit save. And now, if I want to put it in my loop, you do add document from computer. And let's see. There it is. And hit open. So now that's going to be in your loop for our transaction coordination team to see that as well. And that will just really help them out through the whole process to be able to have dates, timelines, and also all the contact information. So again, it's so important to make sure that you're using our transaction coordination as soon as you get an executed contract. So go straight to the contract to close and get that submitted. That way they can start helping you from the very beginning. And by helping you leverage, you're able to go out and get more business.